Welcome to the True Detectives podcast.
Whew.
Get ready for another crazy story as we dive into the unexpected world of detectives and weird investigations. I'm your host, Adrian.
Hi, everyone.
And with me, as always,
Ready to uncover some truth behind the mystery.
is Julia. This week,
This one's a good one.
you sent us some truly fascinating material. We're looking at a reimagined medieval Asia,
Okay, I'm intrigued already.
a world of 5 kingdoms, all kind of balanced precariously on the edge of war. Think ancient wisdom.
Ooh.
Think martial arts. Not your typical knights in shining armor.
Right. It's a totally different vibe.
Your excerpts paint a picture of, well, really a fragile piece.
Definitely.
And our investigation today
Buckle up.
is going to unpack the key events and the surprising twists that, well, threaten to shatter it, all through the eyes of a disgraced detective.
Love it.
You with me so far?
Absolutely.
Let's start by getting to know our main character,
Yeah, let's.
Detective Ishara.
What's immediately striking about Ishara and what I found particularly interesting in the material you shared
Yeah.
is that he's not defined by one set of skills.
Right.
He's a master of martial arts.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
But he's also deeply knowledgeable in ancient lore.
interesting.
It suggests a fascinating approach to investigation,
Yeah.
one that blends physical prowess
Uh-huh.
with intellectual insight.
What did that combination tell you?
Well, it really stood out to me. It hints that in this world, solving mysteries isn't just about finding physical clues. It might involve understanding historical patterns, interpreting old texts,
Right.
or even applying philosophical principles.
I see. So like a more holistic
Yeah.
approach.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's his backstory, former rising star investigator
Yeah.
who's been disgraced, blamed for his master's murder,
What?
and exiled to a remote monastery.
That's a lot to unpack right there.
It is. It's a powerful starting point, this idea of someone with immense potential, now living in self-imposed isolation.
So what did you make of that exile?
The excerpts describe his exile as a blade hidden in plain sight.
A blade hidden in plain sight. Okay, interesting.
It resonated with me. It's not just a punishment.
Mhm.
It's a strategic repositioning.
So like he's being kept in reserve.
Precisely. His skills haven't vanished. They're simply dormant, waiting for the right moment.
I like that. Waiting for the right moment
Right.
creates this kind of undercurrent of anticipation.
For sure. You just know he won't stay hidden forever, especially with the piece hanging by a thread.
Yeah, too much potential there.
Totally. So what pulls him back into the fray?
The catalyst. Well, it's quite unique.
Oh, yeah.
Forget a royal decree
Okay.
or a desperate plea.
All right, I'm listening.
Ishara's summons comes in the form of a messenger serpent
A what?
in a bamboo grove.
Okay, hold on. A messenger serpent?
Yeah.
That's not something you see every day.
Not exactly your average courier service.
So what's the serpent doing?
Well, this serpent guards a scroll that calls him to a grand council.
That's a pretty dramatic summons.
It is. It's such an evocative image, isn't it?
Yeah.
This ancient, almost mythical form of communication delivering a message of critical importance
Yeah.
to this
Fragile.
fragile assembly
Right.
of the 5 kingdoms.
What can you tell us about this council? What kind of atmosphere awaits Ishara?
Well, the setting of the Grand Council is very richly described.
Oh.
You have these gleaming pagodas
Okay.
and manicured gardens.
So picturesque.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Creating an initial impression of,
Harmony.
exactly, harmony and diplomacy.
All right. But something tells me it's not all peace and tranquility.
Oh, you got that right. The text immediately contrasts this with an underlying tension. An atmosphere described as thick with suspicion.
Thick with suspicion.
Think about it. What could breed that level of distrust
Yeah.
at a peace summit?
That's a good question.
Well, the material hints at several factors. Stolen relics,
Okay.
poisoned envoys,
Oh, wow.
a general climate of accusations
Sure.
flying between the kingdoms.
Sounds like this piece is hanging by a very thin thread.
It really does.
So Ishara arrives in this volatile environment, but his role isn't that of a diplomat or a negotiator.
Right.
So what exactly is he there to do?
Well, he's described as a shadow.
A shadow.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, me too.
It's very fitting.
And I think it perfectly encapsulates his position.
Right. Given his past and his current exile, he's not meant to be seen or heard
Like
in the traditional political sense.
he's got to operate under the radar.
His task is much more clandestine.
Wow.
To uncover the truth behind the chaos without the constraints of formal diplomacy.
I see.
He's there to observe, to investigate,
Yeah.
to find the root of the problems that are threatening this fragile peace.
So basically, he's the ultimate insider-outsider.
Exactly. Present but unseen, powerful but operating from the shadows.
Which brings us to the initial clues and
Yeah.
the individuals who immediately stand out as potential sources of trouble.
Always going to have those, right?
Great.
In this kind of environment, you'd expect a few key personalities to be stirring the pot.
Oh, absolutely.
So who catches Ishara's attention early on?
The excerpts highlight a few intriguing characters.
Oh, all ears.
There's a brash young warrior with a thirst for glory.
That's a classic.
Someone like that could easily be manipulated
Yeah.
or might act impulsively in a way that destabilizes things.
Impulsivity can be a dangerous trait in such a delicate situation.
Absolutely. Then you have a jealous concubine with whispered knowledge of aphrodisiacs.
Ooh, I know, that's interesting.
Right. It introduces a more personal and potentially subtle element
Yeah,
to the intrigue.
definitely.
And finally, an aging advisor with quiet ambition.
Ah, the classic power behind the throne.
Exactly.
Mhm.
A classic archetype of someone who might be working behind the scenes to gain power.
That's always a good suspect in these kinds of stories.
It is, isn't it?
What did these initial suspects suggest to you about the nature of the conflict?
They pointed towards human motivations, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Ambition, jealousy, the desire for recognition.
Right.
These are timeless drivers of conflict.
It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest threats come not from external forces, but from within.
That's a very good point.
It suggests that the threat to peace might not be some external enemy,
Yeah.
but rather internal tensions and individual agendas
Hmm.
within these kingdoms.
Yeah. But the investigation takes, a rather dangerous turn for Ishara himself, doesn't it?
It does.
Tell us about the Tournament of Blades.
Yes, the tournament is presented as this grand spectacle, a display intended to symbolize unity and strength among the 5 kingdoms.
Makes sense. A show of solidarity.
Exactly. But for Ishara, it quickly becomes clear that it's anything but a celebration of peace.
Oh.
He becomes the target.
The target. Oh, no.
And the attack is, well, let's just say it's pretty direct.
Okay, give us the details.
A poisoned arrow is shot, like right at him.
A poisoned arrow. Talk about an escalation.
It's intense, but here's where his martial arts training kicks in.
Ah, I see.
The reaction is described as instinctive, a dance of deflection learned in childhood dojos.
Wow.
He manages to evade the deadly arrow.
That's incredible. But who fired the arrow?
That's the thing. It's not some mysterious operative from a rival kingdom.
No.
It's an archer from one of the allied kingdoms who's been hired, like specifically to take Ishara out.
So someone within the alliance is trying to eliminate him.
Exactly. What does that tell you?
Well, it immediately suggests a deeper layer of conspiracy, doesn't it?
Right.
Someone is actively trying to get rid of Ishara, likely because he's getting too close to the truth.
I think you're right on the money with that. It really points to someone trying to protect their own interests
Absolutely.
and silence anyone who might expose them.
So the attempted assassination is thwarted. But what about the other sources of tension at the summit, like the stolen relic?
Yeah.
That seemed like it could have been, a major flashpoint.
Oh, for sure. And Ishara handles that situation with, well, let's call it a clever bit of detective work.
Well,
Instead of a public accusation or a dramatic confrontation,
right.
he quietly presents the supposedly stolen relic,
Right.
revealing it to be a forgery.
What? That's a bold move.
Think about the implications of that.
Okay, so someone deliberately planted a fake
A fake,
to incite conflict.
classic tactic to fuel suspicion and potentially trigger war.
It's almost like a medieval version of a false flag operation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Designed to manipulate the political landscape for someone's personal gain.
And then there's the matter of the poisoned envoys,
Oh, right.
which, if I recall, turns out to have a rather unexpected explanation.
Yeah, that one takes let's just say a rather human turn.
Okay, I'm curious.
Ishara offers the jealous concubine a withered blossom.
Oh, okay.
This seemingly simple gesture acts as a trigger,
Oh,
prompting her to confess that the substance she used wasn't a deadly poison at all, but an aphrodisiac.
An aphrodisiac. So not a sinister plot, but a love potion gone wrong.
Pretty much.
Wow.
In a misguided attempt to regain her lord's affection, she used it, and, well, the side effects unfortunately mimicked the symptoms of rare and dangerous poisons.
Oh, wow.
Causing widespread alarm and suspicion.
So a case of romantic miscalculation leading to diplomatic panic.
Exactly. It's a reminder that not all threats are born of malice. Sometimes they come from desperation or even just plain clumsiness.
You know, it makes you wonder how many historical conflicts might have been sparked by similar misunderstandings.
That's a fascinating thought, and speaks to the importance of clear communication and careful investigation in these situations.
Absolutely. Now, what about that young warrior with the thirst for glory? How does he fit into this web of intrigue?
He becomes a kind of cautionary tale.
How so?
It's implied that he was probably manipulated by others,
Yeah.
perhaps promised honor or advancement,
Classic tactic.
if he contributed to the growing unrest.
Playing on his ambition.
Exactly. However, when the truth begins to surface, his pride prevents him from admitting that he was used.
It's tough to swallow your pride, especially when you've been played.
For sure. So ultimately, he leaves the summit in shame, another casualty of the manipulative atmosphere.
It's a reminder that sometimes the biggest battles are fought within ourselves.
Very true. It's about recognizing when we've been misled and having the humility to course correct.
Okay, so let's step back for a minute. What's the overarching picture that emerges from all of this?
It's not one grand conspiracy with a single mastermind, but rather a series of individual plots and human failings that are threatening to unravel the peace.
It's like a perfect storm of, of bad intentions and miscommunication.
Exactly. The resolution isn't achieved through, like, a single heroic act or a decisive battle.
Yeah.
Instead, it's the painstaking work of uncovering and dismantling these individual threads of deceit and manipulation.
Kind of like untangling a really complicated knot.
A very delicate knot. The material you sent makes it clear that the real threats to peace aren't always external armies.
Right.
They are often the internal weaknesses and motivations of individuals' ambition, jealousy, the inability to admit fault.
Those are powerful insights.
How does Ishara reflect on all of this as he returns to the monastery?
That's a great question. I'm really curious to know how he processes all of this.
He doesn't see the resolution of the summit as a definitive victory or the end of the struggle.
So no happily ever after.
Not in the traditional sense. He understands that peace is not a static state, but an ongoing effort.
Yeah.
A constant, grueling fight against the darkness lurking in every human heart.
Wow, a constant grueling fight.
It emphasizes that maintaining peace requires vigilance, awareness, and a willingness to confront not just external threats, but also our own internal failings.
Right, the shadows within ourselves.
Exactly. He realizes that future threats won't necessarily manifest as open aggression, but will likely be just as subtle, perhaps even more so, hidden within seemingly innocent interactions and gifts exchanged in the courts.
It's like he's saying, stay vigilant, the battle never truly ends.
He returns to his secluded life with a deeper understanding of the complexities of human nature and the fragility of peace.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
This investigation set in, reimagined medieval Asia, highlights how the core challenges to peace and stability often come down to individual choices and motivations. It's a reminder that the battles we don't see, the internal struggles for power and influence, can be just as dangerous as any external conflict. Thank you for sharing this fascinating material with us. For you listening, what aspects of this medieval investigation struck you as most relevant to understanding conflict in any setting? What other subtle threats might be at play in situations where peace seems fragile? Keep those thoughts simmering.
And if you enjoyed this investigation into the Way of Shadows, be sure to rate and follow the True Detectives podcast for more true crime and true detective stories. We'll be back next week with another captivating case.
See you then.